Okay, this is a low tech, quick response to my daughter and some other people who are sometimes feeling overwhelmed by graduate school, and maybe even others who are feeling a little bit overwhelmed by college, and just about how knowledge and education works in general. So, this doesn't apply to everybody, nor in all situations, but I think in a broad general way, it's kind of true. So when sometimes what happens when you get to a certain level of education in anything, whether it's welding, auto mechanics, ancient philosophy, literature, music, physics, engineering, anything, you get to a point where you understand there is way more out there than you ever imagined there was. Um, and you realize that you know way less than you thought you did. I just finished my diving certification, and that's true there as well, as in with seems like everything. So, but one way to keep from being overwhelmed and disheartened by that is to think about some things. So, if you think about over here, if this is um, the way that you think this is your world as being an infant. How much do you know of that world? Basically, your world is all of that. Everything that you understand about that little world is I'm hungry, I need to poop, I scream, I get my attention, things happen. So you kind of understand all of what you understand about that. But then your world expands a little bit further, and you get into childhood, and there are other things that you start to understand that uh, you don't always get what you want to eat. Uh, you don't. You're not necessarily good at everything you want to be good at, and you start learning math and spelling and things like that. And you realize that you don't understand all of that. So you understand less than you understood as an infant, but your world hasn't expanded yet. There's lots of things that you haven't even encountered yet, like France and uh, how car engines work and trigonometry and things like that. And your world expands a little bit further, and I should probably label these differently. Maybe you get into high school and you realize that there are things that you're very good at, uh, running track or playing basketball, maybe being a musician, maybe being a good English student or being a good physics student, or actually being able to do some carpentry and work on engines and things. But you start to realize that there are lots of other fields that you don't quite understand at all, and maybe you travel a little bit and you realize, wow, there's a great big world out there. And so you realize that, well, I understand some of that, but I don't understand very much of it. There's other things I don't understand at all. And so you choose to go into business, or you choose to go into um, science, or you choose to go into English, or you choose to go into trades or something, because those are the things that you understand and you're not concerned with the rest of the world. And then your world expands again when you go into college, or you go into trade school, or you go into business, and you realize that the world is much bigger than you were aware of. And you get a certain amount of understanding of um, your particular area, your particular business, the job that you do, your particular college major. And sometimes you come out of that still feeling like, yeah, now I understand all of my major. I understand all of English or physics or whatever it is, and you feel pretty confident because you've got the degree. So it may be a little bit less. You're aware that there's this big, huge world out there, and there's a lot that you don't understand. And for people who go into grad school, if you go in for your master's degree, you start to realize there are tons and tons of things that you don't understand in your particular field. And so you maybe understand only, you think, well, I'm going to focus on this particular little area here, and instead of I'm going to focus on early music, or I'm going to focus on avant-garde jazz, or I'm going to get advanced certification in aircraft engineering and work on jet engines. And so there's larger things that you don't necessarily understand, but you understand a lot about a very small area. And if you go beyond that and you get to very, very advanced stuff like a PhD, one of the things you find out is that what you understand is a very, very small area of a very, very large type of specialization. And that can sometimes, this realization, when you start to realize, God, there's so much out there, it's such a big world, and I understand so little of it. And you think, I've been in school forever, I've been learning, my craft, I've been learning skills in trades, and you find out here's some old dude shows up and says, oh, let me show you how to do this, or have you read this book about how to do these things? And sometimes that obscures the fact that although you feel like you're learning understanding a smaller and smaller part of things, because as an infant you knew everything about your world. As a child, you felt like you knew a lot about your world. In high school, you feel like you're getting a pretty good grasp of things. And it feels like you're learning less and less and understanding less and less. But you have to remember, too, look at how big your world is getting. So even though your understanding of how much you understand of the larger world has reduced, instead of knowing everything, you know all of this stuff. And then instead of knowing, as you go through college, you know all of this stuff. And instead of learning just the stuff from college, when you get into graduate school, you get into your master's degree, you get into advanced anything, you're learning, you already know all of this other stuff. And that goes all the way, I think, with anything you learn, whether it's autodidact, or whether it's things you learn with a formal type of learning, or things that you study more and more and more. You become aware that the world is bigger and bigger and bigger, and you know less and less and less of that world. But that's a function of how much you learn, or how much you have expanded your world. You actually know a lot more than you did before. You just realize that it's what you know is a small percentage of a very, very big world. And getting to the point where you are part of a bigger world makes you a bigger person.